That's right. You're listening to another episode of the co-main event Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. I'm Chad Dundas. That's Ben Folks. We're both longtime MMA journalists, and for the last 13 years, we've been meeting here every week to break down all the action in the wild, weird, and occasionally wonderful world of mixed martial arts. And Ben, UFC 322 is nigh.
Nye.
Yeah, it's nigh. It's coming up on Saturday. We're doing it out there at Madison Square Garden, the actual granddaddy of them all in the city. So nice they named it twice. New York, New York.
Must be November. Must be November in the UFC if we're headed back out there to Madison Square Garden. Gonna do the shit. Again, closing in on reportedly the end of the pay-per-view era. And honestly, you look at this one, this is a strong card. Top to bottom. This reminds you how we used to do the shit. Got two title fights. I know everybody on the main card. I even know most of the people on the prelims. And you look at here and you go like, all right, if this is what it takes, they just come off a fight night where there were almost no ranked fighters on it. There were only, I think, two fights that included one ranked fighter against another, and they were both women's bouts on the prelims, not even really spotlighted at all. And then you turn around and you go, okay, that's what we're doing this for? We're doing the dog shit ones from the Apex so that we can keep all the good stuff and load up these last few pay-per-views with the good stuff. All right, you know what? That's probably the way it should be. The prices you charge for these damn things now.
Yeah. In theory, maybe this is the second to last UFC pay-per-view before we head over there to the PLE era on Paramount Plus. And let's just say it, UFC 322, this one's the big banana, right?
See, when you said, let's just say it, had a moment there to be like, what are we going to say? Never did I think it was going to be big banana.
UFC 322 is the big banana.
Okay.
With all due respect to Merab going out there at 323 to try to put fighter of the year on lockdown. He might already be the fighter of the year, but if he wins yet another title defense, will that be will it kind of be one for the history books? If Merab can do that, like that's got to be, I mean, I don't know how you put it in context with what we've seen come before in this sport, but you got to think that would be on the list somewhere as the greatest championship year.
Yeah.
In UFC history.
I mean, if he wins it, because there's also a potential.
If he wins it, of course. Yeah. It's not the greatest championship year in UFC history if he loses. You got to win that one.
If there's definitely a world that exists where Merab goes out there, loses that one, and we all go, well, shit, man, that's why you don't fight that much. That's why you don't try to book yourself for that many 5-round title fights in one single year, because eventually you wear yourself out. We've seen other people do it before. Nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to them. But then you look at Merab and you go, okay, it doesn't seem like it will ever happen to him. Like you could see maybe like eventually age might get him, or just like, some other young, good fighters in that division might figure him out. It doesn't seem like he's a guy that will ever suffer from just overactivity, overwork. And yet at the same time, as soon as something like that were to happen, everybody would be like, I knew it. You can't run at that pace for that long. My man was burning the candle at both ends and it caught up to him. Like everybody would be an expert in it the morning after it happened. So I'm just saying, let's wait and see on it. I think I would pick him in that fight. And if he does, then I do think you have to say he's fighter of the year, and that it's one of the just like most breathless breakneck championship years we've ever seen.
Yeah. Of course, we're not there yet. We're still talking about UFC 322, the big banana. Okay. Two championship fights on this at the top of this card. Jack Della Maddalena defending the welterweight title against Islam Makhachev, and Valentina Shevchenko defending her women's flyweight title against Zhang Weili. Two fighters moving up to try to win belts in second divisions. Two fighters in Islam Makhachev and Zhang Weili trying to become champs. Are we still saying champ? Is that we used to say it when it felt special, and now it's just like, man, if you're not a champ, what have you even done, right?
Yeah, it's like champ got you the life that now you're just barely breaking in the door before you're a champ. It's like what they used to tell you, like, oh, you got to get a high school diploma and then you got to get a college degree. And now you get that college degree and still don't mean shit to somebody. That's what being a champ is these days, especially headed into the non-pay-per-view era. Champ is when we start really paying attention. And yet at the same time, we've seen some people find out that weight classes exist for a reason. We've seen some people try to become champs, and it turns out that their reach exceeds their grasp. That can happen.
And at least as it pertains to the main event, that's kind of what we're talking about here, right? Like, it's kind of no secret as to what is happening in Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena. You got Islam Makhachev coming up from 155 pounds. And I think the biggest question is, how does he look? How does he fare at 170 when he's not cutting weight? And you have to assume Jack Della Maddalena is cutting at least some weight to get down to the limit there. I would expect him to be slightly larger than Islam Makhachev. I don't know if it will be huge. I don't know if the weight differential or the size differential will be huge. But the question here, is it not, Ben Fowlkes, is how does Islam Makhachev match up physically at welterweight?
Yeah, that is one of the big questions. Also, the big question, I think, is, are we doing to flat-nosed Jackie kind of what we did with DDP, where we're like, okay, you won the fight, you became champ, but we're not convinced yet that you're that good, even though you keep winning a whole bunch of fucking fights.
Yeah.
Because, he kind of got thrown into that title shot just because, shit, we got to do something, man. We got to do something with Bilal, who's available, who can step up and take the fight. Shavkat, that boy good Rakhmonov was out. So, all right, we went ahead, we did that kind of shit. And, you get in there, you make the absolute most of it, just kind of took it to Bilal Muhammad, and everybody kind of goes, all right, that was better than we expected, but also we didn't walk around thinking that Bilal Muhammad was an absolutely unstoppable force at welterweight either. So people aren't, if anything,
we traded to an even more surprising champion.
It's more surprising, and yet I think a lot of the fan base would find him easier to like. And so people weren't necessarily upset by that trade, but it does feel like everybody's looking at him being like, all right, hope you enjoyed your time with the belt, because Islam Makhachev is coming and we have decided that he is a goddamn juggernaut. Now, whether he remains a juggernaut at 170, that should be seen. Also, maybe it turns out Flat-Nosed Jackie is better than people give him credit for. I do think that it's going to be, especially for Islam's style, it's going to be a very interesting test to see, does his Habib-esque approach still work as well against guys who are bigger and harder to toss around? And also, Islam have been a little bit more free-flowing with the striking. He looks to land more than, Habib and a lot of those Dagestani wrestler type guys have wanted to, but he also is willing to take more. Maybe you find out you get hit by a bigger welterweight and you find out, oh shit, that feels different than it did when you were getting hit by lightweights and, in his Volkanovski fights, even featherweights.
Yeah. At the moment, Jack Della Maddalena is going off as a plus 215 underdog. Islam Makhachev coming back at a minus 265 favorite. I've been saying this all along, and I could be wrong. I'm very willing to be wrong on this. But just in terms of the overwhelming public discourse, and as you mentioned before, the fact that we have decided that Islam Makhachev is an unstoppable juggernaut, I have felt all along like people are not giving Jack Della Maddalena the chance or the attention that he deserves, right? Like, all he has done is won all the fights, right? He's won every fight that he's been in the UFC. That's as good as you can do when you have a certain number of fights and you win them all. Can't do any better than that. I feel like if Islam Makhachev either can't take him down, or Islam Makhachev can take him down, but Jack Della Maddalena is able to get up, I honestly think he has a good chance to win this fight, man. If he can keep it on the feet and do what he does, he is a sharp, aggressive striker with good volume. We saw that against Bilal. He likes to work the body. He can throw counters. His grappling may be a little bit of a question mark, but man, if we are on the feet and he can like kind of keep the fight at the distance that he wants to keep it at and avoid either being controlled up against the fence or taken to the ground, like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like we could come out of this thing feeling like we had really overlooked him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think you look at some of the striking exchanges that he had with Bilal in there, and you're just like, that's a guy who has tailored his style very well for this sport, and who, frankly, is. I mean, you look at that guy's face, you're like, that's not a guy who is going to be convinced to stop coming forward easily. That's not the face of a man who has learned many easy lessons in life, So that he is going to test Islam on the feet for as long as he can stay there. The thing is, you could also imagine a scenario where Islam Makhachev comes right out, takes him down, swarms him, does that thing where they're just all over you, just forcing you to defend. You start to fall behind, and he locks up a submission. And then we all kind of go like, well, that was the weakness in the game, and that was also a strength in Islam Makhachev's game. Like, I could see that happen, but especially you start talking about plus 215 on Flat Nose Jackie, the bigger man and the sharper striker. I could be like, I'd take a little taste of that. $20 I never want to see. Yeah.
Think about it. And I guess the question is, can Islam Makhachev mix the game up if he has to? You know what I mean? Like, if he can't either control Della Maddalena against the fence or on the ground, can he use that striking that you referred to earlier as being, maybe a little better than what we're used to seeing, or at least he's a little bit more willing to use the striking than what we've seen from some of the guys who have this particular background that Makhachev has. And he's been a little bit more successful with it than somebody like Khabib, right? Who is more uniquely and uniformly focused on the grappling. But at the same time, Islam Makhachev can get a little wild, up there on the feet, overextend himself. So maybe, one of the big questions is if plan A doesn't work for Islam Makhachev, is there a plan B, and can it be successful? If we came out of this thing, let's say, with Islam Makhachev winning by TKO or fucking around and out striking Jack Della Maddalena to a decision, how surprised would you be?
I guess I'd be pretty surprised. I mean, to me, one of the questions I keep asking myself is if we had our choice, like as far as what we'd like to see happen next in some of these divisions, and I kind of go, do we want to see Islam Makhachev become welterweight champion and then stay there and hold it down at welterweight? Like, would that be a satisfying outcome? Is there a part of us that wants to see him lose so that he'll go back to lightweight and have to tussle with Ilia Topuria?
I think the answer to that question depends almost entirely on the specter of Ilia Topuria, right? Are we still planning to try to put that fight together at some point? Are we thinking that somehow it would be more promotable if it was a champ versus champ fight? Are we thinking that we could do it at a catch weight between 170 and 155?
Dana White hates a catch weight. Hates a catch weight.
Sure, but like the fact that they didn't make that fight when Islam Makhachev was the lightweight champion, with all due respect to the big homie Luke Thomas, is almost promotional malpractice.
Yeah.
Right? When they had it right there in front of them and they could have made it and they didn't, that was the only reason that I can come up with why they didn't do that is that they couldn't convince Islam Makhachev to stay at 155, right?
Yeah.
Like, it could have been that he was just so dead set on 170 that they weren't able to make that fight, because otherwise I don't know why you do it, or don't do it, excuse me. Because if you're trying to make it a champ fight, or you think you can book it down the road, if Ilya, or if Islam, excuse me, is the 170 champ and Ilya is the 155 champ, that seems like classically misguided MMA promoter thinking when you have it right there in front of you. Although, we will say, had Paddy Pimblett in the news this weekend or last week accusing Ilia Topuria of slow rolling it, of slow playing, signing the contract to fight Paddy Pimblett. And I'm sitting back thinking, well, maybe there's a reason. Maybe he's waiting to see what happens on Saturday before he rushes in to sign in any kind of fight.
I mean, Ilya Topuria seems like the ambitious type fellow that wouldn't rule out, even if you did win the welterweight championship, going up and chasing you for
Right.
that champ stuff. At this point, it's a race to see who's going to be the first champ, right? The
Triple champ.
champ cubed, whatever. Like, somebody going to do it. And right now, you'd have to think your best bets would be Alex Pereira or Ilya Topuria. So I don't know. I could see Ilya Topuria talking himself into at least trying something like that. It is interesting whenever you have one of these title fights where it kind of feels like the shape of two different divisions depends on what happens here, and a lot could change. You wake up Sunday morning, depending on who the champ is.
Well, and Ilya Topuria, or I'm sorry, I keep saying Islam Makhachev was saying all along the cut to 155 is just physically depleting for him now. So if he goes up to 170 and does not get it done against JDM, then what? Then what do you do? Does that cut suddenly start looking less depleting than it did before? I don't know the answer to that question. I think one thing I do think we will know which way the wind is blowing pretty early on in this main event fight. Like if Makhachev is able to just go out there in the first round and take him down and keep him there, we'll know. And if he can't, maybe that's, maybe we start to get answers going the other way. If you're Jack Della Maddalena, I just don't think you can let Islam Makhachev start to build a lead, right? Because if he starts taking you down and getting momentum and he wins one or two rounds and you start getting tired, that's what you don't want. That's the last thing you want if you're Jack Della Maddalena.
Yeah. You also, you'd imagine, have told yourself and had the conversation in training camp, you're probably going to get taken down in this fight. What we want to do is get back up quickly. Don't let this guy establish position. Don't let this guy get to where he wants and start to advance on you. Don't accept it just because you get taken down that you're going to have to get into the ground game. Like, work your get up, and you might have to do it a few times. You also wonder sometimes, I've talked to fighters and coaches about this before. It's like when they say sometimes that going into a training camp when you know you're going to fight a guy who has better wrestling than you do and is really going to look to kind of like grind it out in the ground game, that sometimes you can miscalculate in your training camp and end up fucking yourself up in training camp, just because if you go in there being like, we got to do a whole lot more wrestling than we usually do in this training camp, you're going to get banged up, man. You're going to get banged up a lot more easily that way than you are if you were doing, a lot of striking sparring. Like just a bunch of little shit is going to start to pile up on you, and then you might end up being a little more depleted. Like, you want to try to find somebody where you're like, you don't want to completely change what you normally do in a training camp, especially since if you're JDM, it's been fucking working.
Yeah,
It's been working pretty damn well.
That's as good as you can do.
It is as good, but at the same time, you got to go in there prepared to deal with that aspect of the game, but you also don't want to go in there so worried about it that it shuts you down with your own offense, because you're just sort of in a shell waiting for the takedown to come.
Well, he's got Craig Jones. JDM's got Craig Jones in camp with him.
Okay. I mean,
Craig Jones was in the media this week saying he's stealing moves from Jack Della Maddalena, but Jack Della Maddalena just smoked so many dubs that he doesn't remember.
What? I did not see this.
Quotable. That's the thing about Craig Jones.
Is smoked so many dubs your choice of words, or is that his phrase?
Something. He said smoked so many. I want to say it was dubs. He used a colloquialism to describe those marijuana cigarettes.
See, this is what I think we need more of in MMA is we need more special guest appearances in training camp who will then go out and spread all kinds of stories about you, whether it's misinformation or not.
Yeah.
That's there used to be a time. Remember when James Toney was getting ready to fight Randy Couture, and we were hearing stories like he's training with Mo Lawal. He submitted Mo Lawal with a guillotine and like, of course, none of that shit was true at all. But it's still fun, goddammit. You want, like, if I'm bringing in a guy like Craig Jones in my training camp, I want us to have a conversation where we reach an understanding that, hey, go out here and say some stuff. hype me up, but also make me out to be a little bit more like interesting figure. Tease people with the mystery about what's going on behind closed doors here.
We did get a pretty cool email this week from listener Joshua A. Ben, you want to hear it?
More than anything.
Joshua A. writes, quote, just wanted to tell all the co-maniacs that I ventured down to the Arlington Tap House and had a blast. And then he writes, come on through, exclamation point. So, Ben, after a few weeks of us telling people about the Arlington Tap House over there in Gladstone, Oregon, it seems like the co-maniacs are starting to check this place out.
That is amazing. And Chad, one thing I think that we need to make sure people understand is that Gladstone, Oregon is located in the Portland metro area. So if you're living anywhere in or around that city, and I'm talking Gresham, Chad, I'm talking Lake Oswego.
What if I'm out in Tigard? What if I'm out in Tigard?
If you're out in Tigard, if you're out in Beaverton, if you're out in Hillsboro, hell.
What if I'm across the river in the Couve? What if I'm in Vancouver?
If you're in Vancouver, Washington, still you can. It is feasible and practical for you to, as Joshua would say, come through.
And this weekend for UFC 322 would be the perfect time. They got a ton of posters over there for past UFC events and this Saturday's UFC event that they'll be giving away. If you're there, you could win one.
And don't forget, if you wear any kind of CME merchandise down there, they give you your first beer half off.
It's unbelievable. They got all kinds of drinks. They got food trucks, and they're showing UFC 322 on their TVs. I think you'll love it.
Arlington Tap House, located at 140 West Arlington Street, Gladstone, Oregon.
Which is in the Portland metro area.
In the Portland metro area. So stop by, come through, say hi to our guy Ray. For more information, check them out online, 140warlington.com.
Remember, you are listening to the Co-Main Event podcast proper. This show drops every Tuesday afternoon for free in your timelines and your podcast libraries. But if you want even more of the Co-Main Event, you can find Ben Folks and myself all week over on Patreon. Hit us up at patreon.com/co-main event. Get loads of extra audio and video content, as well as access to our official Discord message board where they're talking fights and a lot of other stuff all the time. Everybody knows by now we are a completely independent podcast. We don't have the backing of a big parent company or even one of the major MMA websites. We're just two guys talking into microphones, and we've been doing it for over a decade. The truth is we can only keep making the show with your support. So if you can spare a few dollars, come on over. Consider joining us at the Patreon, patreon.com/co-main event. And right now, like we always do about this time, let's do a little bit of listener mail.
Listener mail.
First piece of listener mail this week comes from our guy, Darkwing Duck, and he writes, and so it begins. The price of Paramount Plus is officially going up. And he includes this link to the MMA fighting story. This is by Damon Martin. Says, on Monday, as part of a letter sent to investors, Paramount Skydance CEO David Ellison revealed plans for a price hike coming in the first quarter of 2026, although the exact amount has not been disclosed yet. Paramount Plus currently costs $7.99 per month or $59.99 per year for the essential plan with ads, or $12.99 per month or $119.99 per year for the premium plan with no ads outside of live television options.
Outside of live, because so basically, if you're signing up just to watch the UFC, there's kind of no point in you spending the extra $5 a month to get the ad-free version, because
wait, come on now. You think?
They're still gonna hit you with ads for a shitty movie, for a fucking magical amulet, for immigration and customs officers. Like they're gonna hit you with all the dumb ass advertising shit they always do. So don't even bother if the UFC is your main interest. I always wonder how many people are like, I can't stand the ads, I will pay more, because every streaming service I have signed up for, and I believe I have signed up for all of them, everyone that has ever existed, I always go for the version with ads, because it's just like, well, fuck it, I'm not paying more just to skip over this part. How much could they hike it? $7.99 a month. I mean, we've talked about this before. For years, we've been saying, hey, you could get me to pay you $20 a month or whatever if every UFC pay-per-view is included in the thing, and it'll still be a big discount on what it costs to be an MMA and UFC fan. How much could they reasonably hike it? Because remember, they're not just targeting UFC fans. You cannot make a living. You cannot make your money back as Paramount Plus just getting UFC fans. If you lose all your other subscribers because they go, wait a minute, this shit went from $7.99 a month to $19.99 a month. Fuck off. Like, people will rebel on that just on principle. They're like, I don't care if you got fucking Tulsa King, bro. I'm not doing it. How much do you think they could hike it? Being like, all right, we're bringing you this new big live sports property and you get everything.
One thing we do know is that as long as Liam Neeson's and Jason Statham are still putting out movies, that the UFC will constantly be showing us ads for them. Well, the first thing we need to understand is that once they raise that shit, it ain't never getting cheaper.
Yeah.
The price only moves in one direction, and the price is up. And since they've been over on ESPN, the price has gone up, on the order of about once a year, right?
Yeah.
Like the traditional January price hike over there at ESPN.
They pulled a little sneaky on us this year and snuck in another price hike in fall, knowing that they're losing the UFC at the end of the year. And just like trying to screw us one last time. But that price hike, it's like $5 or whatever.
I mean, if you're a UFC guy and you have been paying for pay-per-views, we know that there is a large percentage of UFC fans that I've heard finds other ways, whether it be going to the Arlington Tap House or
it's in the Portland metro area. I don't know if you realize that.
I've heard rumors. There are rumors that if you are like a hacker or something, that there are other ways to pursue watching the UFC. So, but if you are a person, if you are a straight John who's out here paying for UFC events, you're going to end up saving money, right? If they, as long as the price hike doesn't get too out of control. But I mean, you make the valid point, man. If you're here for Tulsa King or the Star Trek show, whatever it's called, like, you're not going to pay that much for it unless you got a Sylvester Stallone tattoo somewhere on your body. What do you think the over under is here? We're going to go I bet we go from $7.99 per month for the essential plan. That's where you just get the essentials. I bet we move to a $12.99 base for that. Don't you think?
Yeah, I could see that, a $5 price hike, because again, you don't want to completely scare off all these other people. I'm sure they figure there's a fair amount of crossover between people who want to watch Tulsa King and Landman and the new season of South Park, and also want to watch some UFC. I'm sure that they're kind of thinking like, okay, there's some overlap in this Venn diagram. But also, if you tell all your existing subscribers like, hey, we added a new thing that you may or may not be into, and the price of the entire thing fucking doubles or more, they're just going to feel a little bit like you're taking advantage of them, or you're taking them for granted, and that you're going to lose some people that way. And this is not the time when you want to be losing people. You want to be increasing it a little bit now and then increasing a little bit later. Like, they're probably going to want to go with that sort of ESPN approach. It is true, though, that for UFC fans who are used to paying for every month for ESPN Plus, which was constantly going up, and then also buying the occasional pay-per-view, at least in this first year, unless they break this whole promise to give you everything on Paramount Plus, as long as they don't resort back to some form of pay-per-view, there is no way you're not going to be saving money this year, at least. It'll take them probably a little bit longer to work up to a level in which it might start to approach what you were spending on ESPN Plus. So like that, this is a rare thing in that for once in the entirety of the time I've been following this sport and following the UFC, the price to be a fan will at least temporarily go down.
And maybe that's why I'm not 100% sure that I believe it.
Because this never happened?
Because it doesn't sound like something they do. It doesn't sound like something Ari and the gang would do. Suddenly give us a price cut. So to me, the literal $100 million question is, are they telling me the truth? If I get in the door at Paramount Plus, am I going to get the PLEs, quote unquote, for free? Maybe I have to sit through an ad for whatever new random ass Navy SEAL movie is coming out. Or do we get to a situation where the UFC is like, oh, we got Ilia Topuria versus Conor McGregor coming up? That one's going to cost you extra.
Don't you think that they're going to at least try that?
Yes.
That they're gonna dip their toe in that to see if it works, especially when if they get a real big, like maybe the White House one or something. I think that they're gonna test it out, and that's where again I say as a plea to my fellow MMA fans, don't go for it. This is a chance to stop it, to put an end to it, but we have to do it in large numbers together. Solidarity. Solidarity, write it in the sky, like Jimmy Hoffa said. So if we just manage to say the first time they try to do it, we're not following along for this one. We're done. We left that shit in 2025. We're not doing it. Then they'll be like, all right, it's over with. The pay-per-view shit is over with. Let's work on going back to steadily hiking the price on the subscription fee. We have an opportunity, is what I'm saying. But we need to stand together, goddammit.
Next question this week comes to us from Aaron Brickman, who writes, I'm flipping through the linear cable box on this Sunday evening, and I just stumbled upon a pillow fight championship bout from over the summer between Hector Lombard versus Czech Congo for the Super Fight Championship. Between novelty, celebrity boxing, misfits boxing, dirty boxing, real American freestyle, slap, pro wrestling, bare knuckle, among others, what does it say about the state of professional MMA that the number of MMA organizations with any meaningful reach remains as low as it has, but the combat sports space has elongated to so many spinoffs, although it remains to be seen how sustainable the field remains. It's great to see MMA fighters of yesteryear extend their athletic shelf life. It's perhaps one important point to say that the reason that Hector Lombard and Czech Congo are out here pillow fighting is probably that they need the money, right? Probably.
I mean, for one thing, I want to note that the after slap fighting was Aaron Brickman's and not Chad's editorial decision to add that.
I would never disrespect the slappity slap show. I would never disrespect the Dana White Power slap event.
But it's like the same thing we always say when you see something come up like pillow fight championship, and it's cliche at this point for people to go, well, still better than the slap fighting. Would rather watch these two guys, much rather watch Hector Lombard and Czech Congo have a pillow fight than to watch them do power slap. It would make me so fucking sad to watch these guys stand there and slap each other. However, pillow fight, all right. Let's see what we can get into. Let's see if we can innovate any techniques in the space that I can use on my children. So that it is a good point, though, that people tried for so many years to basically be like UFC, but less so. UFC competitor. Watch what the PFL is doing now, where they start out being like, we're a totally different thing. We do these tournaments, and then eventually end up just being like, nah, we don't do the tournaments anymore. We just do the same shit the UFC does, except far less popular. And we've seen that before. The point about all these other combat sports sort of spin-offs, combat sports reimaginings, you might say.
Yep.
It is interesting because it does say like there's an appetite for this, especially if you take somebody who is already known. Like we already live in the age of the influencer, where getting attention, getting subscribers and views is the whole ball game so that you can then turn around and monetize it somehow, whether it's through like brand deals, advertising, some kind of pump and dump crypto scheme. Lots of people tried lots of different ways, and fighting has become one of the avenues to monetization, because it's like people care about you, therefore they might care to watch you attempt to fight somebody else, even poorly. And like that is interesting. The question though that he gets to at the end here, I think, is the big one: is anybody actually profiting? Is anybody running a financially successful combat sports adjacent spinoff? Or are we all on our way to bankruptcy and or money laundering?
Well, I can tell you one guy who is, and that's Dana White.
Okay.
As much as we want to talk shit about the Slappity Slap show, overhead is so low over there that they got to be making some money on that thing, man.
Well, not only is overhead so low, when we need to make a promo, send out press releases, do all this stuff, we can just use UFC funds, UFC assets to do it. Seems like maybe that ought to be a little bit weird, where we can just have all our shit and use all the UFC stuff to do it for this completely different company. But yeah, you're right. You're paying those guys almost nothing. Fly out to Vegas, give you a t-shirt, and these guys are happy for the opportunity to get clubbed in the neck. But like, fine.
By the crazy Hawaiian.
The stuff like bare knuckle, I think, is a good example, right? Because that's where somebody really, really is trying hard and has been telling us for a while profitability is right around the corner and has made gains. Like it's a bigger deal now from everything we can tell than it was when it started. It's a bigger deal now than it was 5 years ago. And yet you're still like, I think that one would be kind of a bellwether for that whole question. Like, can you take one of these sort of weirdo combat sports spinoffs and make it into an ongoing, profitable, promising business? If they can't do it after all the shit that they've plugged into it, and as long as they've been at it, and the number of different names they've been able to add to it, then I don't know what the future holds for Misfits Boxing and Fight Circus.
The one thing that surprises me, I guess I am surprised not only by the proliferation of various very imaginative options in this space, but I am surprised that anybody will watch it. Because if you asked me like 10 years ago, do you think people will watch YouTube stars boxing? I would have said probably not. If you would have asked me, would people watch some aging UFC people pillow fight? I would say probably not. If you asked me if people would watch two people standing over a desk slapping each other in the face, I would have said probably not. And yet it seems like some people at least are watching that. And you know who I blame? Russia.
Wow. See, that's not where I thought we were going at all there.
I blame Russia and social media for being like, would you like to watch people fight during an obstacle course? Yes. Would you like to watch people fight in the backseat of a car? Yes. Would you like to watch people slap each other in an old haunted abandoned prison? Yes. And so like we saw that start to take off, and now people are like, pillow fight, alligators in a moat. I don't know. Right. And it seems like people are watching it.
Chad Dundas with his own version of the Russia hoax.
I blame Russia.
Who'd have thought it?
Now we got guys fighting on ice skates, Ben. That's a real thing that happens. That's a real promotion. Guys fighting on ice skates.
That one I don't expect to see hang around that long, to be honest with you.
Next question this week comes to us from Alon Mizrahi. Probably nailed it. Who writes, guys, it's time to finally discuss the next big thing. The one and only, the big fella, Josh Hokett. Bro went in not even a minute on the clock, dispatching his rival, taking the mic from Paul Felder, and cutting an absolutely legendary promo. Nothing but politics will stop this man. Remember the name. Did you see this? Did you see Josh Hokett cut a rhyme time promo after his fight this weekend?
Yeah, I do appreciate this question from Israeli former professional soccer player. Alon Mizrahi, whose nickname was the Airplane, Chad, because he used to hit the T pose after scoring a goal. Um, so he goes out there, heavy favorite in this fight, gets a quick knockout. God knows we're fucking absolutely starving for any signs of life or future promise at the heavyweight division. So shit, we'll take it. And then you put on an American flag do-rag afterwards and basically just straight up steal some shit from Chael Sonnen for your post-fight speech. And we go, all right, at least something is fucking happening. Something new is going on over there at heavyweight. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes to get us excited. I mean, when he says nothing but politics will stop this man, I wondered in which different ways that might come to pass. Because something about this whole promo he cut, I was just like, if you want to like this guy, don't go look at his social media.
Yeah,
I don't feel like you'll like what you see. But we'll take any motherfucker at heavyweight at this point.
I mean, people who listen to the show have probably heard us talk about the Monster Factory.
Yes,
that we would like to start a factory for American heavyweights, where essentially we stand outside of NFL training camp and hand out business cards to every offensive and defensive lineman who get cut. Josh Hokett is basically that guy, man.
Yeah.
Like, here he is, American heavyweight, former All-American football player, a wrestler, spent a little bit of time on practice squads in the NFL. And, he's undefeated, fought in Bellator, 7-0 at this point, all stoppages in this man's career. Goes out there, throws on the American flag do-rag, and cuts a rhyming promo. That's the guy. That's the guy that we seek to create at the Monster Factory. And now here he is, Josh Hokett, just getting his official UFC debut this weekend. 6'1", 236. Not terrible, but also not a huge heavyweight.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how far the incredible Hoke can take it.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like the thing that you want to keep in mind is he appeared to be placed in a position for success here. I think he was like a 3-1, 4-1 favorite in this one. The UFC seemed to be like, okay, we would like to see if this guy can become a thing. Let's give him an opportunity to go out there and find some early success in the UFC, but he did all the things that we've been saying guys should do, right? Like signature headwear helps us remember you, at least trying to show some personality, even if it is someone else's during your post-fight interview, and had a name, called out Walter Walker. Walter Walker seemed like he was inclined to accept. So it's like you're doing all the stuff that we have said you should do. The UFC is, in fact, doing the stuff and getting a guy from an NFL practice squad. So I guess this one is the co-main event podcast saying, you're welcome, everybody. We showed you the blueprint.
The blueprint, yeah.
Go ahead and follow it.
Next question this week comes to us from Aljamain Copper, who is a frequent emailer to the show, and at this point is basically our Aljamain Sterling beat writer. He writes, Aljo decided to weigh in on the New York City mayoral results in the most misguided way possible. I'll summarize his tweets here. Aljo, quote, London Stan, please meet New York and Stan. It seems people aren't paying attention to what's going on, and I literally barely pay any attention. Okay, see, I literally barely pay any attention to what's going on, and I can see this coming from miles away. After being called out as being right-wing, he responds, quote, lol, everything isn't political, my man. You have a blessed day, though. I have to point out, now we're back to Aljamain Copper talking here. I have to point out that political would have been the generous take, because if not political, then it just comes across as racist/xenophobic. This is confirmed when Aljo is then asked if he'd feel the same way about a Jewish mayor, and he says, quote, I would have a similar stance. Practice whatever you want, but I truly believe this country should want Christians at the helm. Maybe not for everything, but governor, presidents, etc. I think you get my point. This isn't hate on any religion. We can be a democracy, but still keep the roots in place.
Here's the thing that we need to sometimes remind ourselves of. Just because somebody was good at fighting doesn't mean that they are good at thinking. And a lot of these people didn't really ever expand too much of their worldview or read or consider things outside of what they already believe to be true. And just because they managed to start a fucking YouTube page doesn't necessarily mean they are worth listening to on anything other than professional fighting, which might be the one and only thing that they know in their life. Now, that's not true about every single fighter. There are fighters who are interesting and well-rounded people who know some stuff about different stuff, are intellectually curious, are capable of some critical thinking, but not all of them. Not all of them. And why the fuck we're sitting around wondering what Aljamain Sterling thinks about the mayoral race in New York City? I mean, his is one of many dumb opinions out there on it. I don't know if we need to listen to it. I don't know if we need to give a shit about it.
Then I'm not going to comment further. Last question this week comes to us from Johan van Oldenbarneveldt.
Nailed it.
A 17th century Dutch statesman and revolutionary who played an important role in the Dutch struggle for independence from Spain.
Well, nice of him to write into the podcast after all that.
Subject line: was Gane versus Jones fake?
Okay.
How do you feel about Gane's performance against Jones now that we know fights in the UFC are rigged? Gane's lack of any sensible choke defense seems awfully familiar. See,
this is what happens.
That's a great point. That is a great point right there. That once you start finding out that some fights in the UFC allegedly are under investigation for being fixed fights, it breeds this exact feeling and opinion. All of a sudden, fans are going to start looking at your product and being like, you know what? Cyril Gane did not do a great job against John Jones. Maybe that was fixed. It's good. It breeds suspicion. And if you're the UFC, and if you are any kind of gambling platform, for damn sure, you don't want people thinking that about your fights. You don't want people even starting to think that about your fights.
Now, I suspect that this important Dutch statesman is having a little bit of fun with this idea. I don't know if this is a sincere accusation, especially because if you're going to fix a fight for the purposes of gambling, it doesn't always make a ton of sense to have the prohibitive betting favorite still win. Yeah. I mean, I guess you can jump on the props. I don't know what John Jones via first round submission was at, but even that probably didn't get you to plus money. And so it's more likely that you'd see something like, I don't know, maybe if somebody were to come out and be like, that garbage ass fight between Jelton Almeida and Alexander Volkov, where Volkov ends up winning, maybe that one, because that's one where you're going like, didn't nobody seem like they were trying that hard to win that fight. But you're right. Like once this sort of paranoia sets in, once people go, some of this shit seems to have been fixed. How do I know how much of the shit? And if you let that start to sink in, remember we used to have these kind of conversations all the time. Ken Shamrock would go in there and get knocked out by Kimbo, and people were like, "Fix that fight's fixed." And we, the more sober-minded people in the space, had to be like, "No, fixes would look a lot worse than that." And also, you probably don't choose to just get drilled in the fucking head by Kimbo if you're going to fix a fight. But also, Ken Shamrock is just old. And you don't have to fix the fight when the guy's that old. But people were always ready to see any kind of fight where they didn't like the result or thought it was strange or surprising or something and be like, fix. Now, when you have very credible evidence and lots of reason to believe at least some of this shit has been fixed, you can look around and see fixes anywhere you want. And like that is the poison that kind of seeps into the roots here. And that is one of many reasons why the UFC, you'd think, would want to get super proactive about stopping this shit and about making sure people see how active and vehement they are about stopping it, instead of just kind of being like a few days later, like, oh, I don't know, man, it doesn't look great. And it's just like, no, it doesn't look great, but it also doesn't look great for you. Take the long view here.
It was nice for Johan van Olden Barnevent to write into the podcast some 400 years after he was beheaded in The Hague, uh, after conviction in what many describe as, quote, a kangaroo court.
Wow.
If you want to talk about fights getting fixed.
Yeah. Seems like the fix was in there.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for listener mail this week. If you have a question, comment, or concern that you'd like to air to the podcast in future weeks, you know how to do it. If you don't, I'll tell you right now. Go to the website, co-mainevent.com, and click the link at the top of the page that says email the podcast. That'll get us, or that'll get you, I should say, in touch with us. While you're there, you might as well check out our merchandise shop. We got t-shirts, we got hats, we got hoodies, we got lots more. Stop by and pick up our best-selling Daddest Man on the Planet coffee mug or t-shirt while we can keep them in stock, because those bad boys fly off the racks. You could also get a Dundasso t-shirt or a hoodie, a Bobby Nuck shirt, a Volcomania shirt. We got it all. Go to the website, co-mainevent.com, and click the link at the top of the page that says shop. As for us right now, what else is on this UFC 322 card? We'll discuss right after this. Well, Ben, Weili Zhang is the slight underdog at the moment over on DraftKings to Valentina Shevchenko. She is plus 110. Shevchenko is minus 130, so not a huge disparity there in odds for their women's flyweight title fight. I guess I am of two minds as to the relative importance of this fight for both fighters, because I think you can make the argument that both Zhang Weili and Valentina Shevchenko have secured their places in MMA history, right?
Mm-hmm.
We acknowledge both of them as great fighters on the list of greatest of all time somewhere. That said, in terms of legacy, this seems like an important fight for both people, right? Because for Valentina Shevchenko, who I think we all regard as being a little bit long in the tooth at this point at 37 years old, you know, if she can't turn away Zhang Weili in this fight, I don't know how much of a black mark that leaves on her legacy. Certainly, I think short of Amanda Nunes, you could say Zhang Weili might be the best and most important fighter that Valentina Shevchenko has fought. And so I feel like you kind of got to win this one if you want to hold on to the lofty place that we put Valentina Shevchenko in the history of women's MMA. And I think kind of the same thing is true of Zhang Weili, who obviously was pretty dominant as strawweight champ and, you know, had the fights with Joanna Jędrzejczyk that she won, which were historically pretty important. But you go up in weight and you fight Valentina Shevchenko. If you don't win that one, that's, again, part of your legacy. Then suddenly we're standing around saying, well, Zhang Weili, she was great at strawweight. She tried to go up to flyweight, didn't work out for her. So, like, you know, we have two probably ensconced legends here, but I still feel like winning or losing this fight is meaningful for both people.
Are you saying it would be better to win than to lose?
Sometimes it is in this sport.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think either person who loses doesn't lose that much. If it's Zhang Weili who loses, we go, well, shit, that's why we have these weight classes. You went up in weight kind of because we begged you to, because you had so thoroughly cleaned out your own division and made it look easy while you were doing it. And then you went up in weight and you went up against one of the all-time greats at that weight and you came up short. You know, we appreciate you trying. Kind of like Volkanovski didn't really lose much when he went up to lightweight and lost to Islam Makhachev at least the first time. And if it's Valentina Shevchenko who loses, we go, well, goddamn, you had a hell of a run. Valentina Shevchenko, Chad, started her pro MMA career in 2003.
Yeah. Wow. I wasn't even born.
22 fucking years she's been at this shit. To put that in perspective, Chad, Valentina Shevchenko had her pro debut over there in Kyrgyzstan, and then 10 fucking years after that, the UFC had its first women's MMA fight. 10 years. That's a career right there. From how many people started around 2003 and did not have much left in the tank? Their careers were basically over before they could even really not even cash in, even really make a go of it in the UFC. We know plenty of those people who were pioneers in the women's game in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then by the time the UFC finally opened its doors to them, they were like, well, it's kind of too late for me. Valentina Shevchenko was sort of in that boat 10 years in when the UFC first even started being like, well, we'll allow some women's fights. And then she became one of the great champions ever in the UFC after that point. That's insane.
Yeah.
You don't see that sort of longevity anywhere else. So we've seen her in the last few fights. She's losing a step a little bit. She doesn't look quite as dynamic as she has in the past. That's just going to happen to somebody. You know, that you spend not only that many years, that many fights, that many training camps in the sport. She's 37. You know, anybody going to slow down a little bit. And so if you go out there and you lose to a fighter just who seems like every performance we see from her is better than the last one in Zhang Weili, who is still somehow only like a year younger, the people will go, well, hey, that was your time. You know, you had a great run. You lost to a great champion. No shame in that. We still remember you as one of the all-time greats. I don't think anybody really loses a ton.
All right, you convinced me. This fight is meaningless. I don't think anybody should watch it.
Well, that is one way to take it. I mean, I do think it's an interesting, like, stylistic matchup there. You know, I favor Zhang Weili in this one just because I think she's so good everywhere. If I'm in Valentina Shevchenko's corner, the thing I'm saying here is, listen, you know what kind of a fight we want here? Fucking boring. We want a slow, boring grind to the finish till either she gets frustrated, tries to do something, and ends up giving us a submission, or until we win a razor thin decision. That's what we want. We want to take her down. We want to lay on her. We want to slow this pace of this fight to a goddamn crawl. Because you get into like a lot of fast moving action against Zhang Weili, you're probably going to lose that one. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, this case that you make for this fight is meaningless slog. Doesn't have any effect on either's career, and it's gonna suck.
Just because I'm saying nobody loses that much doesn't mean that it's meaningless, because they would gain. The winner gains a lot regardless of who it is too. Zhang Weili, you know, she becomes a champ, the new bar for entry into UFC icon status. Valentina Shevchenko, if she can turn back Zhang Weili, we got to be like, damn, she's like LeBron, still out here doing it, man. You know. So,
hey, man, we're not here to do PR for the UFC. If you think the fights suck and are meaningless and they're going to be terrible, let's just say it. Say it out loud.
Okay. Other stuff of note on this card.
Well, I just want to point out you can get that plus money on Zhang Weili, Ben.
I'll take it. I'll take it right now. What are we looking at odds wise?
I mean, it's only plus one. Let me see here. It's only plus 110, but still,
I'll still take it. You got Sean Brady and Michael Morales at welterweight. You get a couple of ranked guys, both of them looking like a title shot could be in their future. That's a good one. Leon Edwards, the ghost of Leon Edwards, will appear on this one to fight Carlos Prates. We'll find out what he still has left in the tank. Of course, you got Beneil Dariush and Benoit Saint Denis at lightweight. And Chad, the prelim main event, whatever we're calling it now, the return of Bo Nicol, the unheralded prospect Bo Nicol, his first fight since getting stopped by RDR for his first professional loss. He's taken on Rodolfo Vieira in what might be a little bit of a let's get you back on your feet kind of fight.
Yeah, the Cinderella run of Bo Nicol came to a screeching halt against Rainier de Ridder back in May. In all seriousness,
comes into this as a minus 230 favorite.
Yeah, if you're the blue chipper here, you got to win this one.
Yeah.
This is one you can't lose if you want to go on being the Bo Nickel. If you want to be going on, keep on being Bo Nickel trademark. You got to win this one.
You really do.
Is that it? Anything else you want to say here about UFC 322? Don't pretend like you're not going to take Angela Hill versus Fatima Klein to end in split or majority decision.
You already know. You already know what I'm doing there.
Don't even sit here and pretend that.
I mean, if Angela Hill's on the card, I'm taking a split or majority decision result in the fight, and I don't care who knows it. It's a good move. It's a good move. Although the word is out on this bet. I've seen other people talking about it, and I'm sure the odds on this one probably won't even be that great.
Well, you got Malcolm Wellmaker on here. A lot of people got him ticketed for stardom in the featherweight division. You know, he just beat Chris Moutinho. Remember Chris with the green hair?
That's what Chris is there to do, is to show up and get beat by people who might have a future.
9-0 is Malcolm Wellmaker. So he's on this card also against Cody Haddon. So, you said this at the top of the show, but this is the big banana. This is the one that...
I didn't say that. God damn you. You said that.
We know the people on this fight card. This is a good fight card. If you're around on Saturday night and you've either got the money to spend, you can head to the Arlington Tap House, or you're one of these hackers. You're a member of Anonymous, and you can figure out some way to watch this card in different fashion. This one's probably worth it. All right, that's going to do it for this week's Co-Main Event podcast proper. We are going to be on the Patreon page most of the week after this. I'm going to Portland this weekend. So Arlington Tap House, question mark.
Man, if you're out there for this weekend in the Portland metro area for UFC 322 and you don't watch it at the Arlington Tap House, shit, you have a lot to answer for.
Just going to have to convince my 73-year-old dad to go with me.
Tell him about the food trucks down there, man.
Maybe I will.
Bring him a CME shirt to wear so he can get his first beer half off.
Join us at patreon.com/co-main event. We have fun over there. We would love to see you. As for right now, thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support. We are done. We are through. We are out. It's the big banana.
Is this the biggest banana of the year? Would you go that far?
Well, we've seen a lot of big bananas this year.
It's the biggest banana remaining this year. Let's say that.
Okay. Biggest banana available.